You've decided to convert from OSPF to EIGRP. Now, why would you do that? Well, let's find out. Lab number 5, or phase 5, I should say. You've just completed your OSPF configuration, but to your dismay, one of the other Windows technicians at Nugget Labs has begun to learn Cisco technology by taking courses from CBT Nuggets. A wise move. Apparently, one of the CBT Nuggets instructors mentioned that EIGRP is the best routing protocol in the world. Nugget Lab technician has taken this to heart and convinced Nugget Labs management to use EIGRP rather than OSPF. They would now like you to convert your OSPF configuration to EIGRP using the ideal parameters. Jeez, thanks a lot, CBT Nuggets instructor. Well, really, the main reason that I created this lab was because, of course, OSPF and EIGRP are on the exam. Now, I will tell you, in the real world, OSPF is slightly more popular simply because it's an open standard. It's non-proprietary. But that being said, EIGRP is just, I mean, it's a good routing protocol. It's solid. I'm not going to say it's the best routing protocol in the world, but my heart truly feels that way. I will tell you, in my experience, it's... Now, granted, I'm usually brought out to work on Cisco-only networks, so I'm sure I'm a little skewed, but I would say it's an easy 50-50 to where about half are OSPF, half are EIGRP. Now, if they brought me into a lot of non-Cisco networks, not that there really are any, but if they did, then you would probably see a much heavier slant towards OSPF. All right, so once again, to stay within the exam requirements, I'm not going to do anything fancy with VPN tunneling of routing protocols and whatnot. Same thing as OSPF there, so let's take a look. Requirements. First things first is we already deployed OSPF in the previous nuggets, so we need to go in and remove all of the OSPF configuration from our routers and layer 3 switches. Then we'll configure the corporate office to support EIGRP and then the branch office to support EIGRP. So I'm just going to do this one. That's a piece of cake. So let's take that one out first. I've got, again, we've got our topology here. The focus is going to be on router 1 in both locations and switch 1 in both locations. So I'm going to bring up the connection to, well, I'll just go left to right. Branch 1, router 1. Let's get into privilege mode. No router OSPF 1. It's destroyed. We should see our neighbors torn down. There we go. Shoot over to corporate router 1. No router OSPF 1. All the work we did in the last 2 nuggets gone. How does that feel? Oops. Get used to it. Happens all the time. No router OSPF 1. It's gone. And no router OSPF 1. Gone. Okay, that was easy. So we've eliminated OSPF 1. Now let's look at how they want to support EIGRP. It says configure the Nugget Labs corporate office. So we're starting at corporate to support EIGRP. It says should run an autonomous system 7, okay, on both router 1 and switch 1, advertising all corporate networks. Should not use automatic summarization. Unlike OSPF, EIGRP has a very annoying feature called auto summarization, which essentially makes it work like a classful protocol by default. Anytime you cross a class boundary, like from a class A to a class B to a class C, or just between different classes of addresses, it's going to automatically summarize, and that's a painful thing. Now, I will tell you, for the exam, know that automatic summarization is there, and it's on by default. But real world, in the later iOS versions, I'm not too sure. It's some of the 15 trains. It's a fairly recent feature of iOS that they have now disabled automatic summarization by default. Go Cisco. Everybody clap. So all interfaces on corporate router 1 and corporate switch 1 should be set as passive. This is similar to OSPF, with the exception of the WAN interfaces and interfaces in VLAN 1. Now, because I'm assuming many of you are going through this in order, I'm going to skip a lot of the heavy explaining that I did when we went through OSPF. I'm just going to say, okay, we know what a passive interface is now. We don't want to form neighbor relationships. Let's do it. This one will take a little explanation, though. It's the same as it was before. They want to use EIGRP authentication, secure EIGRP authentication, to ensure rogue devices don't join. Use the password Cisco, and you don't need to configure authentication on the passive interfaces. So that's the same as it was with OSPF, but it's going to be a very different configuration. EIGRP does things a little differently on this. So Let's go through this. I'm going to start off on corporate router 1, right about there. And we'll get into, just give myself a little more room. There we go. We'll get into router EIGRP Autonomous System 7. Now again, when we're moving to EIGRP, we gain the benefits of using bandwidth, delay, and if we want, reliability, load in our metric calculations. We also get the ease of configuration. Now, in this lab, unlike the previous one, there is no, let me shrink this down. There is no requirements on network statements. Like before it said, oh, you can only use one network statement and that kind of thing, exact wildcard mask. They're just saying, make it happen. So we'll do that, but I want to show you a little bit as I go. We've got router EIGRP 7. Now it said turn off auto summarization, so I'm going to do that right from the get-go. Otherwise it bounces my neighbor relationships when I do that command. So no auto summary. Now the network command. I'm going to type in network, and Cisco wants to give you some flexibility. Well, let me back out here. Let me do a show IP interface brief. Cisco wants to give a little flexibility with EIGRP. They wanted to make it easy. So they said you could type in the network just like you do with RIP and some of the lesser routing protocols. You know, very easy. Just type in the classful version. Or you can use a wildcard mask to specify. Now, make sure you don't cross the two. Take a look. If I go in and type in network and I go, okay, I want to be like specific, like I can with OSPF. If I type in network 10.1.1.2, I just want to run it right here on this interface, and hit the enter key. It takes the command, but check this out. Do a show run section router EIGRP, and look what it did. It took my network command of 10.1.1.2 and it said, whoa, you really meant to type in 10.0.0.0, meaning I'm running on all the 10 networks. Yikes. If you didn't know that happened, that's like, wow, we are now running EIGRP everywhere, poof, just like that on all our 10 interfaces. Now that may be fine, but it may not be. So if you do want to get specific, you need to make sure, let me yank that network out, hit network 10.1.1.2, and then add the wildcard bits after it, 0.0.0.0. Which says specifically that interface. Now with EIGRP, there's no concept of areas. You can do summarization anywhere. That's what makes it a great routing protocol. And now when I type that in, I can go back and see, now it's specifically just running EIGRP on this interface. And once again, remember, that means two things. One, we're sending hellos out that interfaces. Hello, 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 hello. Trying to form neighbor relationships. The second thing, now here's your Who Wants to Be a Millionaire trivia. Anyone know the default hello timer? 5 seconds. You got it. It's faster than EIG or OSPF by default. So 5-second hello timer. We're saying hellos, trying to form neighbors, and we are advertising this network. Now, this is one of the most confusing things with Cisco, so if I'm beating a dead horse saying this again, forgive me, but I've got to be clear. It is not advertising, I know about the 10.1.1.2 network. No. It's looking at the Fast Ethernet 0/1.1 and identifying, that's the 10.1.1.2 network, but here's the subnet mask, so I'm smart enough, and I'm pretending to be EIGRP here. I'm smart enough that I'm going to go out there and say, okay, I'm going to advertise the 10.1.1.0 network. That was what it was, right? 10.1.1.2. Yeah, so it's the 10.1.1.0 networks. So this is what it advertises. The network command simply identifies what interfaces for EIGRP to look at to determine what networks to advertise. This doesn't dictate what to advertise. For example, when I was lazy and typed in that network 10.1.1.2 without the wildcard mask, and it ended up putting the whole 10.0.0.0, it's not advertising 10.0.0.0. You got that, right? It's not advertising that network. It's looking for interfaces that begin with the number 10, and it's saying, hey, what subnet mask do you have? What network are you? So it's actually advertising 10.1.1.1. Whoops. Sorry, 10.1.1.0, 10.1.2.0, 10.1.3.0, each one of those individual networks. Let me prove it to you as we go through, because it didn't say how we can add those networks, so it's fair game. I'll be lazy and I'll add it the old school way. We're advertising all 10 networks, and we're advertising the 172.30.100 network. Now, What class of network is that? B, right? Class B, 172 is in that range of 120, well, 128, we'll say, through 191. So that's a Class B network. But if I type in 172.30.100.0 as the network without a wildcard mask, what do you think? What's it going to do? Check it out. Takes it right back to the Class B boundary. Again, not saying it's going to advertise the 172.30 network. It's not going to tell other routers, hey, I know about the 172.30. It'll still advertise 172.30.100. It's just saying I will run on any interface that starts with 172.30. Have I beat the horse down yet? I keep saying that because that's one of the hardest things. It was one of the hardest things for me to get when I first got into Cisco. I was like, that just doesn't make sense. And my friends, today I can tell you it still doesn't make sense. It is something that Cisco is doing away with in IP version 6. EIGRP, OSPF for IP version 6, there is no network commands anymore. You enable everything under the interface, like I did with OSPF in the previous nugget on the branch equipment. Okay, enough talk. So we've got EIGRP set up. Okay, we've got to set up passive interfaces. We should have all interfaces set to passive with the exception of WAN interfaces and interfaces in VLAN 1. That should be easy since we did that before. I'm going to do a passive interface default, turn it off everywhere, and then I'll do no passive interface on Fast Ethernet 0/0. That's our WAN. And no passive interface on Fast Ethernet 0/1.1. That's our VLAN 1 interface here. Okay, good. And then the last part is authentication. I'm going to wait on that because I want to roll this out and make sure it all works, and then we'll add authentication because you want to kind of do this thing like an onion. You can't throw everything at it, and then if it doesn't work, you don't know where to begin. So let's stop there. That'll be a base config. Let's shoot over to corporate switch 1. So we already turned off OSPF. Let's do router EIGRP. Autonomous System 7. I'm going to do a show IP interface brief. And I've got all of my VLAN interfaces here, VLAN 1, 2, and 3. So again, it said only to run it, or I should say, only VLAN 1 should not be passive. So I'll even start it off that way. Passive interface default, no passive interface, VLAN 1. Hit the enter key on there. We're good. What am I? Sorry, the doorbell rang, and I'm sitting here thinking, who is ringing my doorbell instead of passive? Okay, brain, re-engage. I've got to show you something. See, that's all it takes. One tiny thing, and it totally derails me. I want to. This is what I thought it was. I went to. Did I show you this? I might have showed this to you. I'm just so excited to you that I'm going to show it to you again. Monoprice.com, my favorite place to buy stuff. No, I did show this to you. I did, didn't I? I must have. What? Yes, I did. This was it? Anyway, I have a Bluetooth headset on its way in the mail. I'm excited about that. So anyway, I'm done with that. So passive interface VLAN 1, no passive interface. Hi, my name's Jeremy. We're configuring a Cisco router. Please join with me. So we've got no passive interface. Now let's do the network statement. So let's do network 10.0.0.0. We're now advertising all of the 10 interface. Look at that. We've got a VLAN 1 adjacency. Neighbor 10.1.1.2. Now, there is no real router IDs per se in EIGRP, but I can do a show IP EIGRP neighbor. And right there, I can see my neighbor has formed. 10.1.1.2, that's the IP address I formed them with. H actually stands for handle. That means 0. I'm the first neighbor that I'm for. It's just a number that increments and goes and keeps going. We've got interface VLAN 1 is where it formed. Hold time 13. That means 13 seconds until that neighbor is dead. Simply because, let me do a show IP EIGRP interface. That's not what show, how about IP protocol? There we go. We can see right here we've got the gateway. Where am I thinking of hello timers? Why am I not seeing show EIGRP, show IP EIGRP Where does it show the hello timers? I've got the topology, the accounting. I thought it was interfaces. That's interesting. Interfaces. Maybe detail. Let's do detail. Ah, there we go. I knew I was going crazy. Hello interval is 5 seconds, so I'm sending hellos once every 5 seconds, and that means that if the default dead timer or hold down timer is 13 seconds, so it's 3 times the hello timer. So essentially, I'm saying hello once every 5 seconds. Hello, wait 5 seconds. Hello, wait 5 seconds. Hello, wait 5 seconds. And if I don't hear back from the other side in 15 seconds, so essentially 3 missed hellos, I'm considering that neighbor down, dead. Now we can tune the timers, just like we did with OSPF, but not part of our lab so far. So we've got neighbor relationships. Let's do a show IP route. Good. We've got our first EIGRP route. That's the D. D stands for EIGRP. If you sound it out, EIGRP. And then we've got the WAN link that we're learning about via the router. So good. We've got the corporate switch 1 and the router 1 configured. Now let's add in the authentication. This is where it gets a little fun, a little different. EIGRP doesn't support authentication the way OSPF does. First off, when it says should use secure EIGRP authentication, the good news is that's the only kind of authentication that EIGRP does support. It doesn't have clear text. So it only supports hashed authentication. Second thing is it's not as easy as just typing in the key under the interface, saying, okay, the key is Cisco, and typing it in under the interface in the neighbor's form like that. Instead, we have to do something called a keychain. Let me walk you through it, and then it'll make a lot of sense. Let's go back to corporate router 1. And to set up authentication, I need to go into global configuration mode and type in keychain and just the name of the keychain. Again, they didn't tell us what name to use. They just said use Cisco as your key. The name can be anything. So let's use Dan as our keychain. He will be our mascot for the day. So keychain Dan. I'm under the keychain and I'll say, okay, the key is going to be, so it says key, what key number? The numbers have to match on both sides. You can have 2 billion keys. If you're really bored on a Friday night, you can just create keys. So I'm going to say key number 1. I'll start there. And it comes in and says, okay, well, here's your options. You can set the string, which is what we need to do. But let me expand a little bit on that. You can also set an accept lifetime and a send lifetime. So let me hit the lab requirements first. They said use a key of Cisco. Right there, key string Cisco. So I know key number 1 is Cisco. Let's do section key. So I'm going to see right there, there's my keychain Dan. The name does not have to be the same on both sides, but the key number does. Key 1, and it says the key is Cisco. Now when I go underneath here, you notice I have the accept lifetime and the send lifetime. Cool thing about this is I could create keys, that automatically change. I could say, okay, on, today is January 6th, 2012. Happy New Year. And I could say I want to send this key from January 6th, 2012 through February 6, 2012. So let it run for a month, and I want to accept it maybe from January 6 all the way to February 7th. Give it a little extra time in case the other side doesn't quite line up. And then, at which time I can say, okay, now I want to change over to the next key, key number 2, and set a send lifetime of such and such and an accept lifetime for such and such. Because again, remember, we can create 2 billion keys. You could just create a whole string that you paste into all your routers of 50 keys. You're covered for the next 50 months because they're always going to be changing keys for the best, most optimized security. Pretty fantastic. But it's not requiring us to do any of those accept and send lifetimes. So we'll just do the base key. So we've got the keychain configured, right? Now we need to go in and apply that keychain to the interfaces where we'd like to use it. I'm going to go under the 2 interfaces where I know I'm forming neighbors. That would be fast Ethernet 0/0. I'm going to form with this side over here and form a neighbor right there. And the subinterface 0/1.1. So I'm going to apply the keychain, apply the authentication to both of those. So here we go. 0/0. That's the WAN link, which I have no neighbors there yet, but we'll go ahead and do this. Now, this is something I disagreed with Cisco on. I liked, when they did IP OSPF and you got all your OSPF commands under there, they totally deceive you. There is no IP EIGRP command. It doesn't exist. You actually have to type in IP authentication followed by mode. For EIGRP is going to be Autonomous System 7. That's what we're using here. And we're going to use MD5 authentication. Now, that's a really weird command, isn't it? That pretty much says, hey, I'm turning on authentication. Groovy? Then, now I need to assign that keychain. So I'll do IP authentication. Again, keychain. And we'll use EIGRP Autonomous System 7. The keychain will be Dan. That is the name of the keychain that we created. Enter. That's the two commands. I turn on authentication, and it's such an odd command. I wish they would have said IP authentication on or mode on or something, but instead they made it this nice long thing. But MD5, you notice, was the only type of authentication that turns it on. Then I apply the keychain to the interface of Dan and says, okay, I'm going to use that set of keys, which it's only one of them right now, but that set under this interface. Now, nothing magical happened because we don't have any neighbors on that interface, but check this out. I'm going to go to fast Ethernet 0/1.1. That's our interface right here. Where the switch neighbor formed. And I'm going to do the same two commands. I'll just hit the up arrow. Turn it on. And notice, as soon as I did that, goodbye, neighbor. Neighbor down. Authentication mode has changed. Neighbor down. I repeat, neighbor down. I add the keychain, Dan, and it's still going to stay down. No neighbors coming back up. Why? The other side doesn't have the keychain Dan yet, or I should say more specifically, the key under the keychain. So let's do this. This will make it easier. I'll do a show run section keychain. Grab that guy, copy, come over the switch, paste, voila, I've created the keychain. Then I just need to go under the interface VLAN 1 on here, come back to this side. Oop, don't want that one. Ooh, we should get that out of there. That won't hurt anything, but it's just you get a cleaner config when you take those kind of things out. So I've got the keychain Dan. Paste that, and then I'll just not be lazy and copy and paste all the way. I'll do IP authentication, mode, EIGRP, Autonomous System 7, and we are using MD5 keying. I'm holding my breath. There it is. We've got the neighbor relationship that has now come back up. We're now communicating between those two neighbors using authentication. Golden. So now we've got the corporate office done. It's running Autonomous System 7, not using automatic summarization. That's the no auto. We've added the passive interfaces. We're advertising all the networks, passive interfaces, and we are using authentication between our devices. Corporate office is golden. Let's now hit the branch office. Okay, I had to pause right there to run to the door to see if it really was my Bluetooth headset that had arrived, and it wasn't. It was some books for my wife. Actually, it's pretty excited. We recently decided we are gonna homeschool our kids. I currently have 3 kiddos under 4, and we're kind of going the direction. I was like, oh, we're gonna do homeschooling. There's just a whole gamut of reasons, and it's just exciting to me because I'm like, man, not only can my wife totally teach the kids exactly what we want to teach them, but I'll be able to teach them what I want to teach them. And I'm already working with our 1-year-old. I'm like, enable secret, no enable password. So I'm pretty psyched raising little Cisco engineers. Anyway, configure the Nugget Labs branch office. So this should be easy. This is essentially a mirror of the configuration. Ready to go. Let's. I'm just looking at this. All branch office should be added. Same passive interface. Well, okay, here we go. We've got all interfaces just on switch 1 should be set to passive, so we don't have that requirement for router 1. So just with the exception of the interface used to communicate with branch 1, router 1, and then we've got the same authentication deal. So this should be easy. This should be review, right? Good. So I've got, okay, OSPF is gone. Router EIGRP 7. Let's just Have at it. No auto. Turn that off. Don't need passive interfaces here, so let me just do show IP interface brief. So let's just, you want to see the ultimate lazy way. Again, they didn't require anything, so this is it. Ultimate lazy way of adding all interfaces to EIGRP. Totally not Cisco suggested, but they didn't tell me otherwise. So I'm going to say network 0000, enter. Easy. It adds EIGRP to all the interfaces on the router now and in the future. Not the best for security, but it works. So we've got that. Again, no passive interfaces here. Let's go ahead and hammer out the authentication. IP, no, key chain. Let's name this one Josiah. I'm talking about my kids. I can start naming keychains. That's my 1-year-old, my first boy. So we've got keychain. So key 1, key string will be Cisco. And I'll exit out of there. And then we'll go under interface FA0/0, and we'll do IP authentication, EIGRP, no, mode, I should use the question mark, mode, EIGRP, Autonomous System 7, MD5, we've turned it on, and then we'll do IP authentication keychain, EIGRP, Autonomous System 7, Josiah. By the way, this is totally case sensitive. So make sure if you're using all caps like I do, you use all caps when you apply it. So we've got Josiah applied to that would be the inside interface. So no neighbor relationships expected there yet because I haven't configured the switch. But I would expect one on the outside interface. So let's try there. Let's add, turn it on, and Josiah. You have to say it that way. So we now have, okay, good. Look at that. We've got the keychain applied. It authenticates. The other side is solid. We've got a new adjacency. I can't wait. I've got to see show IP route, and look at that. All of the routes from the corporate offices now showing up here. What is that? Static 10.1. Where did that come from? 10.1.64.0. Wait a second. Show IP route include, no, show run include IP route. Did I put a static in there? What is that for? Oh, idiot. I don't need that anymore. I should yank that out. See, now this was, I didn't even see that when I was doing OSPF. This was originally the static that we added so that the router could reach the corporate office. Remember, this router, before we were running routing protocols, it doesn't know about all the VLAN interfaces back here, so we had to put a static route in saying go here to reach that. Well, now that we're running EIGRP and OSPF, we don't need that anymore. So, it's not part of the lab requirements, but by golly, I'm doing it. IP route, no, yank it out of there. So we don't need that static anymore because EIGRP is going to fill in the gaps. Not yet, though, because we haven't configured the switch. Okay, so did I get everything? We've got router 1 at the branch. It's running here. No auto. Added the, well, I'm in the process of doing that. We've got passive, no passive interfaces here. That's fine. And then we've got authentication. Good. So let's hop over to the switch. Branch 1, switch 1. So no router OSPF, let's do router EIGRP 7, no auto. Let's do passive interface default here because this one I know has a bunch of interfaces. Let's do a show IP interface brief. Space on down. Okay, good. So we've got all of these guys that are sitting in the branch office. They're running. And then this one is our individual point-to-point link that goes over to router 1. So I want to do a no passive interface, fast Ethernet 1/15, because that's the interface. Again, it said go passive on everything with the exception, right here, of the interface used to communicate with router 1. And that interface is that guy. So I've got passive interface turned on there. We've got VLAN interfaces there. Good. Let's see, where am I thinking next? Network. Easy enough, 10.0.0.0, and we have added everything. But no neighbors will form because I have no authentication. Let's do keychain. Keychain. See, now that I think I'm just in a giddy mood right now. It's Friday. It's the end of the week, end of the day. I'm just kind of there. So now I will tell you, when I do the answer key, my children are not in it. Dan's not in it either. We're going to use some kind of professional name for the keychain, because the problem with using different names like Isabella. There's my firstborn. The problem with using different names is then you got to remember it on every single one. You want the consistency. Okay, this is not a good design. I will change that when I throw the answer key up there. So keychain Isabella, key 1, and we will do, let's see, key string Cisco. Exit out here, exit out there. Interface FA1/15, and we will do IP authentication, mode EIGRP, Autonomous System 7, MD5. Again, same commands as before. IP authentication, keychain, EIGRP, Autonomous System 7, Isabella. She's so smart. So I'm going to exit out there. We've got neighbor forming now. Now look at this. Show IP route. Golden. I've got all of the corporate office routes. I've got the WAN link that came across using EIGRP as well. Notice this. It's saying, hey, we have the class full 10 network /8, class A network, which is subnetted into the following subnets. That's just how the routing table lists it all. So those are all the subnets of this. Here it's saying, hey, this is our class full version. The 10 or 172.30 is the class full. It's a /16, but this is the subnet of that. So we're good, and now we should be able to go to router 1, and router 1 should see all the branch office routes. Look at that, all the branch office routes. Now that we eliminated our static route, they're all coming across. Good there. Good. So we've got it dialed in. We've got the branch office. We've got the corporate office. See, guys, I'm debating right now. Do we just go for it and just finish this whole thing? I think we do. I think we do. We're going to finish. No. Maybe? Yeah, let's do it. We're going to finish this whole thing in one nugget, and I think we can do it because the concepts are about the same. It's just a different way of approaching it. So we tested. We saw the neighbors have formed. We've seen the routes appear. So, I mean, we could, if we wanted to, we could go to maybe corporate office, switch 1, shoot all the way over here to this side of the network, and just make sure we're getting the routes all the way over there. And there we go. We've got it. All the routes, these are the branch office routes all showing up. So two different ways that we're now going to tweak it. And this is what I would say is going to probably be beyond the CCNA. But number 1 is to advertise a default route from both routers. Now, come on. What real-world environment doesn't have a default route on all devices? So it says configure Nugget Lab branch 1, router 1, and corporate router 1 to advertise a default route using redistribution to switch 1 on both sides. Now what that means is, again, we have, let me clear off my chicken scratch thus far. We've got the branch 1 router 1, which has a default route to the internet, and this guy does not. We removed that static route in the previous OSPF exercise. So we want to tell router 1, send your default route over here. But EIGRP does not have that handy command that OSPF does. The default information originate always. Remember, we did that one in the last time. There is no command like that for EIGRP. So what we have to do instead is take our static route and redistribute it into the EIGRP process. Essentially, we're going to tell the router, hey, I want you to send all your static routes into EIGRP and tell everybody about your static routes. Now, this works well if all you have is one static route, the default route, to the internet. That works well. Otherwise, you got to kind of put filters on. It gets a little dangerous. But this is just one of the ways that you can do it with EIGRP. Probably the most common way. That's why I chose it. So let's go to branch 1, router 1. Here's all you have to do. Going into, let's do a show IP route. And you can see my one static, now that I removed the other one, is my default. I'll do on router EIGRP 7. And I'm going to use the command redistribute. Now, if you've heard of this, this opens a whole can of worms. Redistribution allows you to send any protocol into any other protocol. Look at this. Redistribute, what do you want to send? OSPF, odor. Bet you didn't know that there was odor protocol. That's actually a protocol based on CDP. It's pretty crazy. You know, ISIS, EIGRP. I've got all the different things I can redistribute, including static. Now, this is, by the way, this is what you do when you get into the CCNP and you start running into mixed environments, like you've got Company A over here that uses OSPF, and they just acquired through a hostile takeover Company B, which is running EIGRP, and they say, oh, okay, well, we want to run just one routing protocol, but we need something in the meantime. What you can do is send all the EIGRP routes to OSPF and all the OSPF routes to EIGRP using that redistribute command. That's a pretty advanced topic, but right now we're just using it to send the default route. So I'm going to say redistribute static. And then we have to type in what's called a seed metric. Seed, like seeds that you put in the ground. Meaning, I'm going to send this guy, my default route, 0000, into EIGRP. And I have to say, well, this is how much it costs. This is the metric of that route. Now, I'll tell you, most people just make it up, and that's what we're going to have to do too. But EIGRP is a little more fun because remember, EIGRP doesn't just use the bandwidth, it uses bandwidth, delay. You can also have it using the load, the reliability, and even depending on what book you read, the MTU. Truth is, MTU isn't actually used in the metric calculation, but that's what the books will tell you. So we've got the metric. So it says, okay, well, what bandwidth does this default route have? Well, we'll say, well, it's 1500. Now, 1500 is about a T1 line. What is the delay? 1500. That sounds good. How reliable is it? 100. You might be saying, well, whoa, Jeremy, you're just making this stuff up. Yep. And that's what most people do. Now you can get advanced. You can say, well, I want to set it a certain way and to look, especially when you get into super advanced redistribution. But I mean, that's really what a seed metric is just making up a metric. And so we'll say, well, what is the load? And I'll say, well, 100. So we've got 100, and then we've got the MTU. Let's 1500. That sounds good. Now those numbers are I just made them up. So now it's going to take that default route and redistribute it. And I shouldn't just say default. It's taking all the static routes, of which we just have a default, and redistribute it into EIGRP. Let's take a look. That was branch 1, router 1. I'm going to go over to branch 1, switch 1. That was its routing table before. It's like the weight loss commercials before, after we've gained 1. So we've got the EIGRP. It now sees it as an external route. Check this out. Notice the administrative distance. 170. Not as believable as the internal EIGRP routes, because EIGRP says, well, I didn't come up with that. I can't trust it. So Cisco by default says, well, those won't be as trustworthy, but no default or a default route with an admin distance of 170 is better than none at all. So that's why we see it here in the table. Then we have our metric. That number was actually generated from all these values that we typed in over here. They put it into what's called the K-value formula, and I'm diving deep. Just ignore me. That's how we send the default route. So let's go over to the router 1 on the other side. Again, before, corporate switch 1 does not have a default route, and after. Let's go in, redistribute, static, metric. Now you notice it says, oh, you can just hit enter. Well, the problem is if you do that, it assumes an infinite metric for EIGRP by default, which is unreachable. It's like a hop count of 16 for RIP. It's unreachable, so the routes don't really go anywhere. So just so I don't have to type it all over again, let's just copy that bad boy to the clipboard. Ching, paste, enter. Good. Now we come to the corporate switch 1 and after. Voila. We've got the default route that is now sitting in the table. Good. One more thing. Summarization. Configure two-way summarization between router 1 at the branch and corporate at the corporate router 1 at the corporate office. Now, notice it says corporate should summarize all internal networks using a single route, and the branch should do the same. Summarization in EIGRP works differently than it did in OSPF. Remember, in OSPF, there was only one router that could summarize. What was it? Some of you are like, the corporate router. Well, yes, but technically it's the ABR, Area Border Router. It has to be the router that's dividing up more than one area. In EIGRP, there's no concept of area, and they say, hey, you can summarize anywhere. So this gives us some more flexibility here. I'm going to have the corporate router be a summary point and send the route out this way, summarizing the corporate office into one advertisement. And then I'm going to have the branch office summarize its network out to the corporate from this point, because I can have two summary points. I can have as many summary points as I want to in this environment. So here's how it's done. One command. Oh, I should have wrote it in there, but this is. Ooh, I'm going to modify this because I forgot to add in that. Remember that 10.1.254 network, this little point-to-point link that I came up with. That was a bad design, so we can't really summarize that one. So that one will be exempted. I'll add that to the lab before it's said and done. But let's do it. I'll show you the command, how easy it is. I'll go to the branch office. Show IP route. We've got all of these networks in our routing table representing the branch, and we've got all of those networks in the corporate router as well. I'm just showing them to you because I want to see them go away. Here's how we summarize. I go under the global config mode. I'm going to just reorient myself. Okay, 0/1 is facing the internet, so I'll do interface fast Ethernet 0/1. And the command is IP summary address. And it says, well, you can do it for RIP or EIGRP. I'll say, oh, it's EIGRP Autonomous System 7. And the summary route I want to use, and you know where I'm going with this, right? I'm going to pull open that spreadsheet that we had before. Oop, wrong direction. Right there. And here's our branch 1 summary. Same thing as OSPF, so I'm going to say that's the summary address. Oop. There we go. And paste it in here. My copy and paste isn't working. Let's just, we'll go old school. We'll type with a keyboard. 10.1.64.0, 255.255.248.0. Slam it in there, and we're done. Look at that. It says, oh, neighbor change. We've got a resync. It's not that the neighbor went down. It's just resynchronized because we configured a summary. So before, now it's truly going to be a weight loss commercial. Watch this. After. Shoop. Look at that. We shrunk down. Right there is our summary route. 10.1.64.0/21, which matches up with what we saw right there, /21. That represents all of the branch office networks. Now let's go the other way. We've got, let's look from the branch router. We've got all of the branch routes because it's the one doing the summary. Oh, look at this. I want to show you this. Whenever I do this, it will create a null 0 summary route. Now, who knows what null 0 is? Death. The bit bucket. Dropping, whatever the case is. And this freaks a lot of people out when they first see it. They're like, oh, I'm taking my entire branch office networks and throwing them away. Meaning when the router gets it, it's going to be like, oh, looks like you matched this. Let's dump you in the bit bucket. Well, don't panic, breathe easy, because remember, whenever we have a routing table, the number one rule of matching is the specificity. Let's make up a word. If that's not a word, it deserves to be one. The specificity of the subnet mask. Meaning the more specific the subnet mask, the better route is. That even beats administrative distance. I could have a horrible route that has a more specific subnet mask, and it'll be believed far better than something with an administrative distance of 1 or even 0. You know, that's the first thing that breaks it. So the only time it's going to match this route is if it's trying to reach something that's not in the routing table otherwise. This is actually known as a loop prevention mechanism. Because let's say, notice right here I've got 71 as my last network. Let's say somebody sends, well, actually that doesn't work well because I'm using up all these. Well, let's say, okay, notice right now I've got no 70. Because 70 is actually down, the switch isn't advertising it to me. I don't have any 10.1.70. So if I received a packet for 10.1.70 and this route wasn't here, EIGRP would go, oh no, it's not matching any of these routes. I'm going to go ahead and send that out my default route. So let's say this guy was asking for something with 70. It would come back here and be like, oh nope, let's send it out this way. It's looping these routes that really belong at this office. So what that says is, okay, if 70 doesn't exist, then it's going to match this route and end up dropping it. Does that make sense? So it's kind of like a looping prevention mechanism that it has there. So That's why that's there. Now, what was I doing? Oh, okay. I was going to show, I see all of these routes from the corporate office that are showing up in the routing table. So we need to do summarization the other direction. So let's go to the corporate side. Just so I can remember the interfaces here. Oop. I'll do interface fast Ethernet 00. And we'll do IP summary address, EIGRP, autonomous system 7. And the summary route is going to be, we've got 10.1.0. I put through 63 just to show the range, but 10.1.0.0 with this mask represents the entire corporate office. So let's do 10.1.0.0. I think I copied it to my clipboard. There we go. That mask. Hit the enter key, and now I've got a summary route representing the whole corporate office. It says, oh, resync, summary configured. Now let's go back to the branch office. Before, got it highlighted, and after. Notice all the highlighted routes are now missing and replaced by this summary address. We now have a more optimized routing table. So we now are at the same efficiency that we had back with OSPF. Good, good, good. So we've got an entire conversion to EIGRP crammed into one nugget. We went through, configured the base EIGRP, turned on authentication, essentially all the same config we did with OSPF, then added the default route and two-way summarization. We are golden. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.